And this is America's Mayor live from dark, beautiful Palm Beach. And you see those two little lights there. Look at those two little lights in the back. It's like two little eyes looking at us. Maybe that's President-elect Trump with his field glasses, trying to see what we're saying about him. 'Cause that's where he hangs out, right down there. If he's there tonight, I'm not sure. I know he's going to France this weekend, right, for the opening of Notre Dame. I have to tell you, one of my great experiences in Europe was going to Notre Dame with Dr. Maria and a group of other people. And it was a French priest. The French priest got up. He came in. You know, walked down. They made the procession with two other priests. It was a high mass. And he saw me. And he goes up at the very beginning of the mass. I think it was the beginning. No, maybe, well, I'm not sure. I think it was the beginning. Yeah. The beginning of the mass, he said, "We're very, very honored to have with us the very distinguished mayor of New York, Michael Bloomberg." To which I stand up. I'm not going to correct him. And everybody applauds. And then these two priests come over to him. And they're whispering in his ear. And the two priests came from Chicago, and they were Americans. Two. And he said, and then they said, well, they said some things I'm not going to repeat. But they basically say you should be able to tell the difference between Mayor Giuliani and Mayor Bloomberg. And the French guy was so apologetic. That was shortly before it had the fire. I'm not shortly before, probably about a year before it had the fire. And then Macron let me see it once when I was there. He knew I was there, and he called up and said, "Would you like to go see the work they were doing on it?" And I got the chance to see it midway through. It looks beautiful. It looks beautiful. Well, the big, if you want to look over on the board there, I like that picture because it reminds me. It reminds me of my argument before, my own argument before the Supreme Court, and that I believe is the Solicitor General of the United States, who was arguing that the state of Tennessee should be reversed. Their law, which bans gender changing surgery or treatment before the age of 18, should be declared unconstitutional as discriminatory. Now, exactly who it's discriminatory against, I don't know, because it applies equally to men and women. And it seems like a perfectly non-controversial exercise of the normal power of states under the United States Constitution to make decisions about health and to make decisions about public safety and to make decisions about things that are close to the home. Let's say our government was constructed, unlike a communist or Nazi government, not to be a massive, big, all-encompassing dictator at the highest level. It was envisioned to be a government of the people, for the people, and by the people, where the people retain most of the power. I mean, that's the 10th Amendment of the Constitution. The powers that are not given to the federal government are reserved for the states and the people thereof. And this is exactly what I believe it's what they decided. They decided an on-bank, I think, decision that the statute was perfectly reasonable exercise of a state's power. You don't have to agree with it to come to the conclusion that it's a reasonable position for people to take in light of the studies. Now, the studies in the United States tend to veer toward the idea that you have to have transgender surgery and medication. Otherwise, at an early age, one of the attorneys here, Chase Strangio, basically think it's okay as young as 2. even toddlers are capable of being aware of their gender identities. Well, I don't know how much medical support there is for that. There might be some in the United States. There's almost none in Europe. There's a big divide here between the United States and Europe, and they generally tend to be the more liberal, right? But this isn't about liberal conservative. It isn't about human rights and the lack thereof. This is about money. This is a big industry, and at a time in which there's a lot of constraints on the spending of healthcare dollars. I mean, you got to go. And in some ways, that's unfortunate. I mean, you got to go through a bureaucratic maze to get reimbursed, right? And people leave in the practice of medicine because you don't make as much money and whatever. Uh, this is big money. A lot of it comes from the state and the federal government. Look, they look in Minnesota. Tampon Tim is paying for these things left and right at 3, 4, 500,000 a clip. It's like just like COVID. The vaccine made people billionaires and trillionaires. I mean, the vaccine doesn't. You don't have to sell the vaccine to the public. You don't have to get insurance. The government just hands you $50 billion if you're Pfizer, or $100 billion for the vaccine that, that you didn't need. It may have gotten you sicker. That they lied to you about. Not only did they lie to you about it, they tortured the people who disagreed with them, including taking their jobs away. A completely fascist approach to a question that should be decided based on you and your doctor and your own decision, and that is exactly what President Trump wanted. It got changed completely by Biden. From the very beginning in the development of the vaccine, President Trump's view was you make your own decision about it. Now, I'll tell you that I'll tell you why. I talked it over with him. He was kind of like my doctor when I got COVID because he had just gotten it before me, and he felt quite rightly he'd done a lot of research and he knew a lot about it. So I got COVID just at the time the vaccine was coming out, and I had the antibodies, and concluded, well, if I felt safe about it, fine. People had to make their own decision. I mean, that was the American view. If you're a liberal in the truest sense, meaning a liberal in the sense of allowing people their own rights and allowing people individualism and allowing people to exercise the choices about their bodies. It's really strange that these people who argue for abortion and talk about a woman having control over her own body were insisting that you had to be jammed with a vaccine and you got fired. What happened to control over your body there? You got control over your body so you can kill babies, but you don't have control over your body so that you can decide that you don't want to get vaxxed. In a vaccine that was yelling out to you that it was dangerous. And only Bobby Kennedy had the guts to write this. I knew this because of Dr. Maria and my own work on it with Dr. Zelenko and others. But vaccines go through 2 to 3 years of tests because of side effects. And some side effects don't show up in a vaccine because it's such a major impact on the system. They don't show up for 2 or 3 years. So that's why it takes that long for a vaccine to come out. Now, to get around that, not to save people, but so that Fauci and those bums could make billions, there had to be an exception. And there could be no exception if there was a treatment for COVID. Well, there was a treatment for COVID in India, in Italy, in Germany, not in America. Fauci made sure there was no treatment. He even disparaged medicines that he had said were miracle medicines in order to prevent a treatment, because he had to be able to say in the application for the people he was pimping for, he had to be able to say there is no known treatment. Hydroxychloroquine would have been a known treatment. Ivermectin would have been a known treatment. That's why they went to war against those two drugs. Hydroxychloroquine, chloroquine and zinc is the one I know best. And that had an unbelievable record of dealing with early stage COVID in Europe. Gosh, in India, they had one part of India that used it and one part that didn't. Everybody in the part that didn't died, and everybody in the part that did lived. They got us killed. That's why Fauci's worried about being prosecuted, not because Trump is going to go after him for something he didn't do. He's going to go after him because he committed perjury, because he was part of looks to me like he was part of a scheme to help the pharmaceutical companies make billions and trillions of dollars, and he won't disclose his royalties during that period of time. I mean, if Biden gives him a pardon, you know that. I mean, you'll know he's guilty. I mean, I know he's guilty. Little rat. Sometimes you are what you look like. Not always. You always can't tell a book by its cover. Well, you can tell this book by its cover, though. Where's my book?
There's copyright.
This is a good book.
Got to get it.
This is an interesting Christmas gift, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Imagine putting this under the Christmas tree.
That would be.
Family.
That would be.
Those people, like particularly the Trump people, they'll do this. Like if I wasn't involved in this and you got me this for Christmas, I'd love you. The Biden crime family. Man, what an understatement. They make some of the mafia families look not too bad. So the trans agenda case that was argued before the court, I would say that my expert or considered opinion as an amateur constitutional scholar, what's it based on? Arguing in just about every federal court in the United States, arguing constitutional issues maybe 40, 50 times, arguing for the Supreme Court, and getting the highest grade in NYU Law School in constitutional law and getting the Amsher Award. And I didn't plagiarize like the president. Never did. I always thought it was like wrong, but he even plagiarized the damn pardon. He went and took the exact language from the Nixon pardon, word for word. I'm going to use an expression he would not know. He wouldn't know what it means because he never really got through law school. In hoc verba. That means in the same words. Joe, it's Latin. Yeah, I know. You were left back in the third grade. Yeah. And you're a little slow. You see him sleeping? You see him? Absolutely. Now he doesn't even make, they kind of hit it before. He was like he probably was snoring. Why the hell did we send him? I mean, it's an embarrassment, isn't it?
So this was President Biden.
Well, how about that one where he went to, was it G20? They put him in the back. The president of the United States in the
back room. How embarrassing was that?
They had the president of Nibitupu was there, standing in the front.
Corridor as an with the U.S. in support of the development of the Lobito Corridor. Tanzania views the Lobito Corridor as an integral part of a broader strategy to enhance connectivity in Africa.
I wonder if the
we also
first stepmother needs a pardon.
The fact that the implementation of the project,
his brother and sister-in-law need a pardon. They got a lot of dough from China, from Red China.
Sectors such as agriculture, renewable energy, digital transformation.
Well, the Supreme Court argument in the transgender case, I'm going to say 5-4-6-3. They'll uphold the Tennessee statute and leave it to the states to decide if they want to follow the example of the crooked pharmaceutical industry in America and make these surgeries available so they can make $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 of surgery and follow up their COVID con job with the mutilation con job. Or they might follow the example of England, where they ban it until you're 23, or Germany, where they ban it until you're 19, or where for some reason they don't have the same crooked pharmaceutical industry that we have. And that's why you damn well better confirm Robert Kennedy Jr. You read his book and you say to yourself, man, we need this guy working for us. That was a gutsy book when he wrote it. He was a Democrat when he wrote it. He nailed Fauci better than any Republican even got close. The book has like 500 footnotes. Don't read the footnotes. You'll get through it faster. Other one they better confirm is Pete Hegseth. And stop. People want to drop away from him. Stop it. If they get away with this, you know, it was very, very helpful that the president stuck with Kavanaugh, because if he didn't, we'd have been hit with, 2 more years of that. You got to stop this right away. I mean, the stuff they did with his mother says he's an abuser. Come on. His mother wrote him, I don't even know how they got this email. His mother wrote him a personal email when he was going through a divorce ago, where she was taking the side of the wife, which is not unusual. And she felt he was unnecessarily harsh to her. And she said, you abused her. She didn't mean sexually or hit her or any of that stuff. She meant he wasn't nice to her. By the way, the New York Times publishes that, scum that they are, right? I wonder how many of them have emails like that in their background. Probably a lot worse than that. But they don't tell you that 3 hours later, 8 years ago, before any of this, she wrote an email or a text message to him apologizing for losing her temper. His mom did. And she, the poor lady, had to get on television to explain it, because the president of the United States thinks that her son could be exceptionally well qualified to be Secretary of Defense at a time in which we need somebody who's got the guts to just turn that place completely around. You're not gonna get some kind of a one of those people at the Washington cocktail parties who want the job to do any of this stuff. Got to get tough men and women. And they got to be contrarians. And they got to be willing to have, first of all, they have to be willing to hate Washington cocktail parties. That was always my great asset. I never played to the Washington crowd because they didn't like them. They still don't like them. They were a big bunch of phony jackasses you ever met. All they care about is what position you have in government, and all they want to do is go to cocktail parties and talk about gossip. And I like to go to dinners with 3, 4, 5 people, and you can have really substantive discussions, not a bunch of those phony. Well, Pete is not a phony cocktail party person. I can't see anyone in the Trump administration who's a phony cocktail party person. And I'll tell you who isn't a phony cocktail party person, and that's the soon-to-be next president of the United States. That's why when he has dinner, which he does all the time at Mar-a-Lago, he's always sitting with anywhere from 4 to 6 or 7 people, so you can have a real discussion, not just how are you and some ass licking or whatever. So I'm saying to the Republican senators, stop it. You wouldn't have a majority if it wasn't for Donald J. Trump. No way. Sorry. You're not going to do it with McConnell going around, China. You're not going to do it with him. You're not going to do it with, Thune is probably even more boring than McConnell. They weren't going to win the Senate back. You look at the ones that he pulled in. They all ran behind him. I think McCormick's going to be a great senator. There's nothing against him, but he wouldn't have won without Trump.
Yeah.
He wouldn't be there.
That's a great point.
They all ran behind him. And a couple didn't quite make it, right? And a couple made it.
4.
But if he wasn't on the ballot, I'm telling you, they wouldn't be there. It was the Trump enthusiasm that got them over the top. In part because they were outspent 4 to 1. So I don't know why McConnell gets any credit. He didn't raise enough money for them. And then the ones he didn't like, he didn't give any money to at all, because he's been working for some other side for a long time. Maybe the side that gave him and his wife $5 million. What side was that? Who gave him $5 million? Do you know your current events? Who gave him $5 million? Red China. Mm-hmm. The communists in Red China gave him $5 million. And somehow he had a epiphany. China's not so bad. No, we should be doing business with them. How much should we get, Charles? $5 million. We got $5 million. Gave me a little more, I go further. Then he got Dottie, and the Chinese probably want their money back. We can't do much for him now, talking the way he talks. I'm going to ask you a question, and the answer to this answers whether or not these people should be pursued, and it constitutes being vindictive or seeking justice. Do you have any doubt that Joe Biden gave China or gave away the Bagram Air Base because his family had gotten $21 million from China in the preceding 4 or 5 years? You have any doubt about it? The Bagram Air Base is 400 miles from China. There'd be no reason under the sun that an American president, unless he were just a straight out and out traitor, would give it up. Every member of his military was against it. Not a single one of them objected after, because all of them are like Nazi prison guards. And when you say, should Milley be prosecuted? I don't know. When he said that he would alert China if Trump was going to attack him, I don't know who the hell he's working for. And he doesn't come forward after the guy gives away Bagram. There's no reason to pull out of Bagram. It wasn't on the plans. Trump was shocked. Everybody was shocked. Biden's own people were shocked. They didn't recommend that to him. He came up with it. Now, this nitwit wouldn't even know how to spell Bagram. Z wanted it. Never pursued COVID, did he? We have a big mystery over where COVID came from. It came from China. Oh, Trump called it the China virus, like Lyme disease from Lyme, Connecticut. Oh, Trump is a xenophobe. Thank God I don't know what it means, so I couldn't, I'm not sure I know. I don't even know what xenophobe. I thought that was. I thought it was like an illness, and you took penicillin for it.
Yeah, I thought it was a Power Ranger.
Yeah, but I mean, they say that a lot.
There's a new word. Yeah, they came up with that word.
Xenophobe.
Trump, they came up with that word, right?
Hillary uses it a lot.
Xenophobic.
Yeah, xenophobic.
We're a basket of deplorables.
Xenophobic.
I had no idea.
Misogynistic.
I'm not very cultured.
Misogynistic. You think Biden could spell misogynistic?
Oh gosh.
Now, guys who get held back in the 3rd grade can't spell misogynistic. Everybody's got a right to whoever the hell you want to write to that they got to nominate Pete Hegseth.
Pete. We like Pete.
And the real reason,
he's a war hero.
The real reason, because they don't want him. They're making it clear that they're afraid of him. This isn't coming just from every Democrat's against him. Every Democrat, and it's coming from the lobbyists, right? It'd be a big argument. Who's more dishonest, the pharmaceutical lobby or the military-industrial complex? I would say the military-industrial complex. It's got a much longer history of doing it, and it's the reason we have a Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. We had to pass a Foreign Corrupt Practices Act in the 1970s to stop them from bribing everybody, including our enemies. So when they say, we're going to make a lot of money because the planes are going to be built in the United States. Yeah, we're going to pay 3 times more for the planes because you got to pay off this guy, you got to pay off that guy, you got to pay off this guy. Then the Ukrainians come in for their piece. Why do Ukraine always described as the 2nd most corrupt country in Europe? Because they're honest. So Hegseth should be confirmed, and the Republicans should stick together. And
And
I don't know. I used to like Senator Collins, but why is she always what? You know, I think it was. I don't know if this was good strategy or not, Ted. I'm going to ask you to. They put out the name of Pete DeSantis, Governor DeSantis, Ron DeSantis. They put out the name of Ron DeSantis for Secretary of Defense as a possibility, right?
Yeah.
So that would suggest they were backing off Pete, which they don't seem to be doing. So I have a different view of this. I think they put it out to basically say to the bums, ain't going to get any better boys, because DeSantis will be equally tough. I can't see much daylight between DeSantis and Hegseth about being tough on the military-industrial complex. DeSantis is about as conservative as he can get, right? They complained that they used to say, when they thought he'd be the nominee, they would say he'd be worse than Trump.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Which would have happened to anybody else who was the nominee, by the way. But
well,
so I mean, if God forbid they do away with Pete, Trump is just going to put somebody there that's as tough on them or even tougher.
Well, let's hear from Pete on Capitol Hill earlier today.
I'm not going to back down. And I'm proud of what I fought for. I'm not going to back down from them one bit. I will answer all of these senators' questions.
Put it up louder.
But this will not be a process tried in the media. I don't answer to anyone in this group. None of you. Not to that camera at all. I answer to President Trump, who received 76 million votes on behalf and a mandate for change. I answer to the 100 senators who are part of this process and those in the committee. And I answer to my Lord and Savior and my wife and my family. I'm proud to be here. And as long as Donald Trump wants me in this fight,
like him even better now.
Standing right here in this fight, fighting to bring our Pentagon back to what it needs to be.
What have your conversation?
Look, I mean,
I'm proud of what
I just voted for him. On that one, I just voted for him. Anybody who knows the rule that you should, if I were a senator doing these, I'd ask them, do you read the New York Times? And they don't want to say no, because I'd say, well, you got to read the New York Times. You have to read every day. You got to know what they're thinking. And you also have to use it for advice. They say, why? Because you just do what Ronald Reagan did. You read the New York Times, and then you do just the opposite. And you'll be very successful. That's what Ronald Reagan taught me, and I did it as mayor. Consequently, they did about 97 editorials about me, of which about 92 were extremely critical. I was a Nazi. I was a plantation owner. I was crazy. I was bad, terrible. I made people work. I made people work. You can't do that. You can't make people work for welfare. My God. Did you ever think that maybe I cared about them more than you did? You phonies? I cared about them a lot more. Like if my brother was out of work, what would I do? I don't have a brother, but hypothetically, if I had a brother, he was out of work, what would I do? Would I just give him money for the rest of his life, or would I try to find him a job? Well, if I was a really good brother, I'd try to find him a job, wouldn't I? Unless I wanted to make him like a little slave. Oh, maybe that's what they want to do. I'm glad to see that the president hired Pete Navarro. They got a great picture in the Post. He looks like he's ready to punch somebody out. He'd be entitled to. They have to put They put leg irons on him, Ted.
Insane.
And leg irons on Pete Navarro. At the time, he was like 79 years old.
It's insane. Now,
he's in great shape, as you can see, and he could probably outrun them. But still, he wasn't going to go anywhere. Leg irons?
Crazy.
And they give a pardon to Hunter Biden.
Crazy.
They give a pardon to Hunter Biden.
Absurd.
Who took bare minimum about $50 million. And as he tells you, we're not gonna let tonight go by without showing this, Ted, right?
Right.
We don't let them get away with anything.
So here Navarro will be Senior counselor for trade and manufacturing. President making that announcement
Oh, let's show them the
yesterday.
breakdown in the House. There's the breakdown in the House of Representatives, boys and girls. 220 to 215. Pretty soon it's going to be 217 to 215. That's when Matt Gaetz leaves for the new Congress. He won't be part of it, right? And that's when Elise Stefanik leaves for the UN. And that's when Walz leaves to be a national security advisor, right? National security advisor. So for a while, we'll be 217 to 215. And that while will probably be until April or May by the time you have the elections in two in Florida and one in New York. Now they all seem like, although you can't take it for granted, they all seem like pretty solid places. And in fact, there's a real chance that whoever runs it can do even better because Trump is more popular now than he was when he got elected. He's got his highest approval ratings ever. It's like 54%. So he is going through a honeymoon, but I don't see any. I mean, they're going to go after him, but I think he's almost immune to their going after him. I think the only person that can hurt Trump is Trump if he lets people down, and he's not. But I mean, I think that what could they possibly do to him that they haven't done to him? They come up with a new crime to indict. They can't indict him. He's the president. They don't have the House. They can't impeach him at least for 2 years. They can throw spitballs at him. Of course, I'm not allowed to say what I really think. That really worries me. But now he'll be in control of the Secret Service, and they'll take care of him a lot better. That he's the one that is in control. So once again, I have to remind you that if you just change the name Richard Nixon to Hunter Biden, it says that you're pardoned for all offenses that you have committed or may have committed. In the case of Richard Nixon, for the duration of his presidency, and in the case of Hunter Biden, for over 10 years. Anything you did, any crime, not even mentioned. Now they are struggling with how many more of these do they, like I mentioned Fauci, right? So Fauci is absolutely liable to prosecution. I mean, I'll give you another thing that we don't even know about. Fauci has never turned over his royalties during the critical period of 2018, 2019, and 2020. Now, he was making, Fauci was making $800,000 a year. Highest paid federal employee, they kept saying. They're wrong. They're wrong about everything. Highest paid federal employees are the coaches of Army, Navy, and Air Force because they make into the millions. Because they can't get competitive coaches unless they pay them that. Now, is it possible that Fauci made more with royalties? Yes, because Fauci, unbeknownst to me, and I think most people, the people in his organization are allowed to get royalties, private royalties. And in some years, they were getting a few $1 million in private royalties in the past. But they're not, no one has required them to disclose what they got. Like, did Fauci make money on the vaccine? Is I guess the simple question. If he did it, he should be headed right to federal prison. It's about as clear a bribe as you can find. And then you could take his lying about hydroxychloroquine. He does an article 3 years ago that it's a miracle medicine. Then he does an article saying it can kill you. It's only been around for 50 years, and I've taken it twice. Didn't kill me. So I think these guys really have to be worried. Shifty Schiff, Shifty Schiff, Shifty Schiff, I really thought very seriously if Trump had been elected reelected in 2020, he'd be right on top of my list to be prosecuted. He engaged in a conspiracy to unseat an lawfully elected president based upon a perjured testimony, purchased perjured testimony. And he added to it himself. There you go, right on television, talking about how he had eyewitnesses to Russian collusion, which he never produced. And he didn't do it on the floor of Congress. See, if he did it on the floor of Congress, you couldn't prosecute him for it. He did it right there with his little stupid neck and mouth. He looks like a senator from California, right?
Yeah, how? That's too bad. Garvey couldn't pull it off. Weren't the Dodgers? Dodgers were in the World Series, weren't they?
Yeah.
Still couldn't pull it off, huh?
Well, at least California got rid of their Soros prosecutors. Meanwhile, New York, you do polls in New York, and Bragg is still popular.
Yeah.
I mean, Bragg, given what's going on in this Penny case, and given what went on in the Trump case, it's now going to have to be dismissed. And given all the people that get beaten up every day by the people he puts out of jail, you would think Bragg would be in terrible shape. But the governor is underwater. The mayor is because of crime. And yeah, they're responsible for not changing the laws or trying hard enough to change the laws. But he enthusiastically supports them. And he's popular in Manhattan. Please, I know there are people in Manhattan who watch us, but you think there's like a sickness in Manhattan, like a mental illness? So in all of Manhattan, only one election district voted for Trump. And I'm not even sure it was an entire election district. It was a sub-district of an election district. It was a big, giant apartment complex, mostly Chinese Americans. And they voted for Trump 51-49. Every other district in Manhattan voted against Trump. Not Queens, not Brooklyn, not the Bronx, even though they were heavily Democrat, and not Staten Island, which was Republican. In fact, in almost every other part of the state, his numbers improved whether he won or lost, except in Manhattan, where it was abysmal. And they witnessed the trial. I mean, they witnessed these two hack, dishonest judges putting him through something that would be akin to a trial in the Soviet Union. And that's why I'm living in Florida now. They were making me nervous. You can't have all these crazy people around you and not expect something bad to happen. So Michael Goodwin, I know I mentioned this last night, but I love Michael Goodwin. And I love this line here. Michael Goodwin went to a party right after the election. And he said, it was a holiday party, I guess it was for recently. So, and he said that one of the major Democratic donors came up to him, pulled him aside and whispered in his ear, "You're right about Trump. I voted for him. Don't tell anybody." It reminds me of the guy at the Grand Havana Room in 2016 who came up to me before the election. I guess I was back for just a short while so I could go have a cigar and a drink at the Grand Havana Room. And this guy came up to me. He wanted my advice. He said, I'm for Trump. I've always been for Trump. But my wife hates him. And I can't tell her. I mean, I just can't. She's requiring me to tell her the truth. And I said, "Oh, come on. You're entitled to have a secret ballot, even from your wife or your kids, or that's why it's a secret ballot." He said, "That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense." So about 3 weeks after the election, I'm back there, and he comes up to me and he says, "I feel terrible. I'm glad that Trump won." I said, "Well, what'd you do?" He said, "Well, I voted for Hillary. I couldn't stand it if I voted for her." I said, why? He said, well, I didn't want to lie to my wife. I said, didn't you have an affair a couple of years ago? Cheating on his wife with another woman and lying to her, but he can't lie to her about Trump? Come on, you jackass. This is why I really believe that this should be, you know what the DSM-5 is? The DSM-5 is the book of all of the symptoms of mental illness. And it's really interesting. I mean, a lot of disciplines, medical disciplines, don't have such a book. But it's interesting because a layman can read it, and I read it very extensively about dementia, about Biden. But I think Trump derangement syndrome should be there. I mean, if you got to take a bunch of kids and get psychiatrists to come in and put them in special rooms, or people leave the country. Of course, those people are kind of mentally deranged anyway. But I think it's some kind of an illness. So Ted is making faces and noises like I have to take a break. So I'm going to take a break so Ted calms down, and we'll be right back.
Are you ready for some action?
I'm ready for action.
Get the Elite TV plan only through the portal. 218 channels, and it's only $69.95 a month,
Wow.
including your free portal.
That's cheaper than everyone else.
Your favorite sports, movies, news,
Wow.
even daytime dramas. We're talking about ESPN, OAN, Newsmax,
Wow.
channels you can't get anymore in certain areas.
Compared to the competition, this is a way better deal.
Endless selection. Not to mention all the free music channels. There's over 700 premium and classic movies all ready to go.
Wow.
Plus, they got catch-up TV that allows you to go back and watch what you've missed or want to watch again. Cut your cable in half and get twice as much for free.
Way more channels for half the cost.
After the first year, the subscription then drops to $57.95 monthly,
Wow.
where you change or upgrade anytime. Go to QUXNow.com and get yours today. Use promo code RUDY. Act fast.
These deals are
Here we are, pretty much at the beginning of the process here at this pristine, I call it a laboratory. It's not like a factory, it's like a hospital. This is the beginning of the process for roasting. Deep grain, very good quality. Most people don't use this quality. We deal with small farmers because they like to know who we're dealing with. They give us the highest quality, all organic, non-GMO. You should know all Arabica beans, no Robusto, all Arabica. They're going to go into the roaster, and it'll get roasted for about 20 minutes or so. Oh my goodness, look at these. My goodness. You're going to want to specially order these. This is what goes into Rudy's Coffee.
To celebrate the new year, we're having the biggest sale ever on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save 60% on our Goose Down comforters, the best comforters ever. They go perfectly with our MyPillow bed sheets and duvet covers. Save 25% on our brand new kitchen towels. They're made with the same technology as our famous My Towels. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. Our seasonal flannel sheets are finally in. You save up to 50%, and they sell out fast every year, so order now. They're truly the best flannel sheets you'll ever sleep on. Or save up to 80% on all our clearance items. And this is where it gets even better. For a limited time, your entire order ships absolutely free. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use that promo code to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. And for a limited time, your order ships
The Jonathan Towers Foundation delivers on its promise to do good and never forget the sacrifices America's greatest heroes have made for us. Heroes who risked their lives to keep our communities and our country safe. Heroes like United States Marine Corps Captain and pilot John Jeremy Sachs. Captain Sachs sustained fatal injuries when his military aircraft crashed during training, killing him and 5 other service members. He's remembered by loved ones as courageous, brilliant, and devoted to his career, family, and friends. Sean is survived by his wife, Amber, who gave birth to their second daughter 3 months after his death. Tunnel to Towers paid the mortgage on the family home for Amber and their 2 daughters. The foundation has helped over 1,000 military and first responder families navigate the worst of times by removing the burden of a mortgage payment. Our nation's heroes and their families need your help now more than ever. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org. T2T.org. That's T, the number 2T.org. T2T.org. Please donate now.
One.
Welcome back. You caught me having a piece of pizza, which actually is very, very good. And so I thought we would spend a little time going through this murder because it's a very strange one. This is not, people are very upset about all the murders that are happening and the illegal migrants committing murder and the murder rate being up and Philadelphia setting records for murder. This is not, this is sort of a one-off kind of murder. This is not, who knows what this is, what caused this. And the interesting thing would be trying to find out, who did it and why they did it. But this was the murder of Brian Thompson, who is the CEO of United Healthcare, who earns about $8 to $10 million a year. So this is a very substantial guy, right? And on Wednesday morning, he was staying at the Marriott Hotel, which is a few blocks south of the Hilton Hotel. And he had a board meeting at the Hilton at either 8 or 9 o'clock. So he wanted to get there early, I guess. We're reconstructing this, right? So he started walking up 6th Avenue. I'm going to show it to you on a map so that when you see the film, you'll understand it better. So there's the map, okay? And you can see 54th Street. But number one is where we first pick him up. In other words, he's walking along 6th Avenue. This here, this is 6th Avenue, right? Let me see if I can get this to work for me. It's not going to work for me. But you can see 6th Avenue right there. See with the black around it? That's 6th Avenue. So you come down here, that's also 6th Avenue, whereas number 1. Number 2 is exactly the spot that the shooter was waiting for him. And he had been in that area since about 5 a.m. He had actually gone up to the rooms where Thompson was headed in order to have his meeting. Maybe he had some thought about shooting him there. But then he decided to lay in wait right here, and he shot him right at the corner of 54th Street. Shot him once. The man ran around the corner, and he pursued him. The gun jammed, and he very, very quickly and very expertly fixed it in motion while he was in motion. And then he shot him, seems to me, 4 or 5 more times. And then he crossed the street. He crossed 54th Street, and then began to run. And when he ran all the way to 3. So 3 is 7th Avenue. For some reason, he did something very odd and something that would suggest that he's not a professional hitman. Well, first of all, he ran away carrying a big pack on his back. Very dumb for a hitman to do that, because anyone who saw the shooting is going to say, oh, we saw a guy with a pack on his back. So now the cops are looking for a guy with a pack on his back. What a professional hitman does is he gets rid of that. And he puts himself into a different kind of costume. So you're looking for a guy with a black hood and a pack on his back, and the guy's got a tan leather jacket on. So he didn't do that, which says to me, this is not a organized crime or very high level executed hit. He could be a hitman, but not professional. So now you get to 3, and at 3, he decides that he's got to double back because he goes back down 55th Street to go back to 7th Avenue to pick up an e-bike. Now, as far as I know, you need a credit card for an e-bike. I think you can do it in cash. So that's going to leave something, right?
Right.
I should tell you, along the way, he dropped his cell phone, which the cops picked up. And going back to 7th Avenue was very, very dumb, because if you look at 1 and 2, by the time he got there, this is going to be a very crowded area with cops, because that's where the dead body is. So he put himself in view of them. That's only 1 block. He put himself in view of the cops who were looking for a guy with a big pack on his back, and there's a guy with a big pack on his back right here. He gets his bike, and he goes up 6th Avenue, and he goes into Central Park, and we lose it. The reason we know all of this is all photographed.
Unless we're going to show the video while you talk, Mayor. I just want to show
Now,
folks.
now you can now you can see the video.
Warning
So there he is.
This does show
There's
being shot.
Thompson at the very beginning where we were.
We're going to show the full video. We just want to
1 and
put that
2.
warning out there
Right.
right now. Okay. So what do you notice? Just watch this carefully. We'll play it a couple times.
Well, I'm going to tell you what I noticed. I noticed he doesn't have any gloves on, which means there are fingerprints on the gun. I noticed that now he does something very stupid. He begins to run. Watch that. There. Much easier to find him by doing that. Probably the reason why they were so easily able to pick him out of the photographs. Because see that thing is like putting a neon sign on you. I'm the killer. I'm the killer. Come and get me.
So that's this happened about 6:45 Wednesday morning on 6th Avenue. Just a few blocks. So this is just a few blocks from Fox News. A lot of the network, NBC, Rockefeller Center. And so this is very.
Is for, if you go back to the map, you see 1, Rockefeller Center is catty corner to 1. Go a little further down, about 3 more blocks, and that's Fox News. No, this is of course, at 6:45 in the morning. It's not packed. It's not empty either, but it's not packed. And as you could see, it was still dark, right?
Right. It
was still dark out when he did it. So now, what are the possibilities? Thompson was under investigation for insider trading. Which is very recent. He dumped stock right before a big loss. The SEC had him under investigation, and possibly others in his company. There was also another fraud investigation going on of the company. And there were several very, very contentious lawsuits about people who claim that because of the practices, the fraudulent practices of United Healthcare, they were denied healthcare at critical times and died. Those are the kinds of things you'd look at, because that's the kind of stuff that could lead someone to want to commit murder, right? And then we have he was separated from his wife. So there is the photographs that the police have now put out through a program called Crime Stoppers. You get a reward if you call it in. But that's a very odd, for a guy who just did a murder.
That's right. So the suspect in the United Healthcare CEO shooting used a fake ID and traveled by bus from Atlanta. Law enforcement sources are saying. Authorities also said that the suspect used a fake New Jersey driver's license to check into a Upper West Side hostel. The NYPD releasing the images that you see now on the screen, calling him an unmasked person of interest wanted for questioning over the killing. Detectives believe the shooter operated in a way that suggested he was, in fact, an experienced marksman. The words delay and depose were found on a live round in a shell casing, and authorities also found a phone and a bottle of water that may have been dropped by the gunman. Police were able to get a fingerprint as well off that water bottle, but it's smudged. What does that when they say? Does that mean it's not? It can't be used, or can't may or
Can be used, maybe.
okay?
I mean, it's up for grabs as to
Okay.
whether it can be used. But if that's his water bottle, they'll have DNA.
So he traveled by bus from Atlanta.
What about the cell phone? They say whether that has a fingerprint on it.
They say the water bottle. Nothing about the cell phone yet. He arrived.
They're keeping the cell phone quiet.
So that's interesting. They didn't say no, right? They just didn't say anything about the cell phone. He arrived in New York November 24th, 10 days before the shooting. He arrived at the Port Authority bus terminal. That's around 40th Street, right?
Yeah, it was on the west side though. That's quite a ways.
But 10 days ago. So this person has been in town for 10 days.
And when he went into the park, if he had an upper west side
hostel,
that's where he was headed, in the park. That's where that'd be the direction you would go in if you were going to his hostel.
He went straight to the hostel from the Port Authority, and he appears to move around the city. This is from a law enforcement official. He checked out of the hostel on November 29th and checked back in on November 30th. He paid the hostel in cash. He checked into the hostel on the west side using a fake New Jersey driver's license. They still don't know where he acquired the e-bike that he used to flee the scene.
Giving a name for him?
No, this person. Oh, that's interesting. No, so you're saying they may know, but they're not. But they haven't released the name. No.
I mean, obviously
they have not released the name.
He obviously used a name at the hostel.
Oh, had they released the fake name? No. They believe it was a fake ID. This is so media outlets that are using, New York, of course, more cameras there than almost anywhere in the world. So that's not true.
New York has a lot of cameras, but there are a lot of places a lot more. For example, China, of course, but London.
London's a good example. That's right. Europe.
London. But I mean, this is very good. I mean, you're not going to do better than that.
So there's a lot of cameras in New York, and what they're telling us now is that there
are enough cameras so that they could put together that entire 5 or 6 block scene.
Yes, it was. So he knew something to go into the park, right? I mean, and it doesn't take a genius to know that, but it takes at least some level of planning or sophistication, right? If this was just someone that was upset, wanted to shoot the guy, I mean, this person had a plan at least to leave the scene.
It's not
avoid cameras.
Not impossible that he was paid to do it,
Yeah.
and he just isn't a sophisticated hitman. A guy, I mean, every hitman makes a mistake. He just made too many, right? To be a professional one.
So they do believe he made it back up to the 85th Street hostel. There's a picture. There's a bike. Okay, we'll try to get this picture up there. There's a picture of him on a bike on 85th Street around 7 a.m. So within the hour. So that's obviously where he was headed. But that's interesting, Mayor. What are your predictions? How, as time goes on, it's how long can this person evade the long arm of the law?
By the weekend.
Oh, so you think they're going to get him?
I'm looking at him and I'm seeing, I mean, of course it could be a total fake the way he put himself together.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like.
Let's show that picture again.
He's staying at a hostel. He can't have like a unlimited amount of money.
So
I don't see him, taking off for Europe in a private plane.
Do those look like the same faces?
Yeah, enough. That's the same. Well, I think it's just a coloring.
Oh, the color, because the one on the left looks more feminine to me.
Well, if you look at it, it's the same. Look under the neck. That's the same scarf, right?
Yeah.
Look at the rather than the color of the jacket, because the color could be. Look at the contour of the jacket. It's the same pockets, the same white. Look on the right side.
You see that white little on the pocket? You see the white little line coming down?
Yeah.
It's both the same string from the hat. Yeah, that's the same guy. That's the same guy in the same outfit, just in a slightly different color and a slightly different angle.
Pretty smile.
Well, I want to show you one video here real quick just to show that what is possible with technology now. I'm bringing up a video, Mayor. This is a fake mask that people are now using and employing to evade, for examples, maybe a protest. If you check the screen here, this is a fake mask. This man is wearing a fake mask right now. So we're showing the video. This is the type of stuff they have out there now. You can order online for $5-10. You see the gentleman here? Looks like sunglasses on. See that face? So watch this, Mayor. Watch this. You see that?
It's still exciting to me. That isn't too far off.
Yeah, it's not too far off, but it is enough, right?
Yeah, I know, but I mean, you think you get a mask where you look totally different.
Yeah. You were expecting somebody totally different there. Yeah. But the technology now, so just want to put that out there.
Could it be a mask? I don't think so. That looks like the contours of a face, but that looks like the contours of a face too.
Yeah. It's interesting, right? And like you said, it could be lighting. There's a lot of different.
It'd be highly unusual having dropped and left behind so many things that they're not going to pick up a fingerprint.
Yeah.
And they do. They definitely, if that was his bottle of water, they definitely have DNA.
Yeah. That's right.
So I think this will take a few days, but they'll have them. They will definitely have. So let's discuss for a few minutes this idea of blanket pardons for the Biden criminals, for the Biden crime family. So is he going to do it?
I really think. Has it been done before?
Nope. Not that I know of. No.
I guess it depends. Like
all the pardons in the past have been for a specific thing. I mean, there are only two
he's gonna do
blanket pardons in history. One was Nixon, and now this one.
I think he's going to do it. And he's going to do it and say, I'm doing this to protect these people from, and he's going to throw in his family members, right? And a long list of political types to protect from Trump's, whatever they're going to characterize Trump's efforts.
Likely it is that the court will find that it's unconstitutional. There's a very, very good argument that it's unconstitutional to do a blanket pardon.
That would raise a lot of red flags.
That although a pardon the president has complete power to pardon, he can pardon any federal crime. There's a very good argument that when the framers of the Constitution put in the word pardon, they were using the pardon power of the King of England as their example. And the pardon power of the King of England required some identification of the crime that was being forgiven, because the pardon power emerged from the sacrament of confession. And the sacrament of confession only works if you confess your sins. A priest can't give you a general absolution. You have to give him at least some description of your sin, and then he absolves you of it if you do the right penance or whatever. So that's the law of pardons, going back to the 14th century, developed based on Catholic theology. Remember, before Henry VIII, it was a Roman Catholic country with very, very rigid Catholic theology. And even when
England was.
Yeah. And even when it changed and became Anglican, or the Church of England, at least until the death of Henry VIII, they still consider themselves Catholic. But so in the laws is a lot of Catholic theology. So when they're discussing pardon and debating it and putting the pardon power in, they're talking about the pardon power that the King of England had, that they would give to the president. And there's also the argument that the word pardon, by definition, requires forgiveness for something specific. You can't pardon what you don't know,
Yeah.
right? So that it doesn't make sense to give a pardon in general.
Yeah.
You pardon for something that you know.
Yes. That
It becomes a irrational exercise. The idea of it is, you know what you're pardoning, and you determine the person is entitled to the pardon for it. You just don't say you're pardoned for everything you did. I mean, suppose he murdered 5 people during that period of time,
yeah.
right?
So
On federal property.
the idea is that the public, while the president has this right, the public has also a right to know exactly what this individual is being pardoned.
Nothing to do with the public. When the president pardons, he can remember, the president only has the powers that are given to him by the Constitution. When the Constitution gives him the power to pardon, it allows him to pardon for something specific, not for anything. Otherwise, it contradicts the definition of pardon.
Okay.
A pardon is not just a general, okay, you're forgiven for everything you did. A pardon is a specific forgiveness for something that you did, where the monarch or the president can make theoretically a determination that you're entitled to.
Yeah. Okay.
But and it makes sense, because otherwise you pardon somebody for, let's say you wanted to pardon someone who was convicted of drug dealing, and you pardon them for drug dealing. But instead of doing that, you said, I pardon for everything they did in the last 10 years. And then it turns out that the person was a serial murderer.
Yeah.
Well, you didn't pardon him for a serial murder. You pardoned him for, so the offending words are all offenses that were committed or may have been committed, because you don't know what may have been committed, and you can't pardon for what you don't know. Now, Biden is a very special case, because Biden pardoned a co-criminal. Biden may be the one situation in which the president really does know what.
You're in the clear, Hunter. We got the video. We played the tapes.
That presumes that
We got the tapes.
That presumes that the president knows everything Hunter did, and even that I doubt is true. Hunter, I'm sure, for example, Hunter sold drugs because he's always running out of money, so he's going to go sell drugs to get money to get drugs. He'd be the only, major league degenerate drug addict that didn't sell drugs, in my experience. So he probably didn't tell his father he was selling drugs. So maybe he did. I don't know. They had such a weird relationship. And what about the cryptic stuff there about child pornography? Is he pardoning him for that? The first agent to come to John Mac Isaacs after he turned over the computer was from the sex crime unit of the FBI, because they must have keyed in right away on the very, very suspicious, numerous pictures of underage girls. So could Hunter have been involved in some kind of ring like that? You going to pardon him for that? So when he gives these pardons to these people, like to Fauci, or to tell you who needs a pardon, Blinken. I mean, you could prosecute Blinken tomorrow right off the hard drive.
Yeah,
I could write you the indictment tonight if you want. I got
he was
a copy of the hard drive.
The ringleader of the spies who lied.
I don't just have it in hidden away. I've got a copy of the hard drive here.
Oh,
I can go on it. I can get you a couple of counts against Blinken.
Oh yeah.
And as you know,
trying to bring up the picture.
We can still do the RICO case.
Got to get this book.
Hunter would supply some of the critical evidence. Oh, there are a group of people who could be prosecuted. There's a group of people who engaged in a conspiracy to defraud the United States. That whole group of people who, I mean, they really should be prosecuted for all the bad intelligence they gave the United States for 30 years. Like, I once told the president-elect last time when he was president-elect, I don't know, I'd follow the rule that Reagan followed with the Times, with the CIA. Whatever they tell you, it's probably the opposite. When's the last time they were right? They get very angry when you say that because I'm right. When was the last time they were right? Weapons of mass destruction? My backside. Right? Benghazi? Yeah, it's only September 11. You're not ready for something on September 11? Yeah, overthrowing the Egyptian government and getting the Muslim Brotherhood. That was smart. Oh, wow. One of those guys did that. I really like them a lot because they accused me of being a Russian pawn. They allowed Biden to go on television during the debate and say, you and your friend Giuliani are Russian pawns. So I'm suing him. I'm suing Biden for libel and defamation. And I'll be able to go forward with the case as soon as he gets out of office. Except I think he's going to be a basket case. They're going to say he'll show up for his deposition and fall asleep. They'll have to have somebody, wake him, or I'll bring you there to wake him up.
We'll go together, Mayor.
Imagine. They never put out that her deposition.
What? Yeah. What?
Where her came to the conclusion that he was.
I think now everyone's just kind of like
he was too blotso.
And now we know why.
Yeah,
Now we know why. The debate told us why.
We should know the full extent of his dementia because it says something about the cover-up.
Can we get that after January 20th?
I think so. I think we can get all those records.
That's going to be a deal, right? They got to keep that there for the next.
Yeah, I mean, how far did they go in defrauding the American people? I mean, this isn't a joke. It's the guy's got the little button right there, and he doesn't know who the hell he is.
That's what they did was an absolute, and I think they were punished for it at the ballot box. I think a good number of people said, well, "This is what you got. This is ridiculous."
You see, but if you don't prove it and hold people accountable, they'll forget it and they'll do it again.
And you're already hearing that from some of our GOP senators. Yeah. They're ready. That's like they never learn. They try to put President Trump in prison. They're literally trying to lock him up 4 times.
They had 4 criminal cases against him just as of 4 weeks ago.
They're accusing him of being a Russian spy. I don't know which country it is today, but they're accusing him of treason. That's punishable by death. But now all of a sudden we're supposed to sing "Kumbaya" and let bygones be bygones. Water under the bridge.
We have to feel guilty with being vindictive.
Yeah,
I never felt guilty about putting the mafia in prison. I didn't think I'd being vindictive.
Of course not.
I didn't feel vindictive when I sent 2 Nazis off to die.
You took care of the mafia.
Like I felt that was my job. That's what I took an oath to do. Took an oath to follow the law of the United States. So if these creeps violated the law of the United States, which they did,
as Kash Patel calls them, government gangsters. You took down the gangsters in New York, Mayor. You're just getting started.
Well, that's why they love Kash so much.
Yeah,
they're so excited about his nomination.
Yeah, they're really looking forward to it.
I wonder how many files in the FBI they're destroying tonight.
Right. Yeah. And this man, he has such an impressive resume, Kash Patel. Where do they get off calling this guy? Oh, he's not qualified.
And Chris Ray was very qualified.
This man's impressive.
The
hell did Chris Ray?
He represented the fat guy in the bridge case.
Oh,
that was Chris Ray's
fame.
Yeah,
helping Christie shut down the George Washington Bridge.
That's a very complex shutting down a bridge. I mean, you got to be one hell of a lawyer to handle that case for the fat man.
Wow, we haven't heard from him in a while, and he likes to talk.
Oh man,
when is the last time any of us heard from Chris Christie?
You think ABC will drop him now?
Yeah, well,
they're certainly not doing it for his looks.
Yeah. Well,
he's not exactly like the matinee idol of ABC.
Well, he's much easier to drop than pick up. Let's just say that. Hey, Chris had it coming. That man, he was so disloyal.
Chris actually has it coming,
right? And he can take it too. You're not punching down.
Punching down. If you ever sat on you,
yeah.
I had to sit next to him. At one of those debate preparations, and I think he had COVID. And he was spitting at me.
I don't know. He came to mind. Oh, we were talking about Chris Ray, and we haven't heard from Chris, so that's interesting.
Give me that record. Okay, come on here.
You ever have a nice dinner with Chris? Oh, I'm sure a lot in 2016.
Oh,
And before that, well, there was no crossover. You were done being mayor by the time.
I don't even know if I ever talked to him.
You didn't know he was. He was a U.S. attorney though. He liked to remind people of that, right? When he was
Oh yeah,
giving us the
Yeah,
spiel on Trump, and was a U.S. attorney.
yeah. You remember all the cases that he brought, right?
Did he argue cases as U.S. attorney?
Well, tell me the ones that he did. They're very famous.
That's a good point.
Very famous. I remember the
Mayor,
case.
people don't really know this, though, right? You
Very
talk about
famous.
arguing cases as a U.S. attorney, and you
Yeah,
did.
I remember.
People
I
don't realize
remember
how
he
they
did
don't.
the
They're all
case.
managers now, right?
I don't think Chris Wray had a significant case ever. He was put there. He was put there because the president at that time, was listening to Christie, and Christie pushed him.
Wow.
And then we get that. We get
The guy
who sits on a hard drive for 17 months. That would have resolved the impeachment immediately and exonerated the president. And then, whatever you want to think about stealing votes, they certainly conducted a fraud on the American people by covering up the hard drive. And Chris Wray at that time not only knew there was a hard drive, he knew it was legitimate.
Yeah.
So he was letting Biden and the 51 spies who lied, he's letting them say all that, knowing that they were lying.
Yeah.
And knowing that his boss, the president of the United States, was being falsely accused, and his boss's lawyer, but he wouldn't care about me, being accused of being Russian agents when it was a complete, absolute lie.
Yeah.
Intended to defraud the American people.
Yeah.
What kind of guy does that? A
Yeah.
crooked guy.
Absolutely.
I mean, I have no doubt that Christopher Wray should be prosecuted. And so should McCabe, who loves to get on television and shoot his mouth off. He's opposed to the Kash Patel nomination. That's about the best reason to nominate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's McCabe think?
A lying, disloyal creep of an FBI agent
A government gangster, as Cash so eloquently put it.
who was working with the White House because you wanted your wife to win her congressional race as a Democrat.
It's also nuts.
He's a really bad guy, McCabe.
Yeah. Well, they are there, and
James Cardinal Comey.
Yeah. I love that card.
Oh,
That-
he's completely out of his mind.
Yeah,
I hired him.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah,
As a
I'd still
But
do,
when you were
I
at
still
US
do
attorney?
penance for it.
when did you when you were mayor?
No, when I was U.S. attorney,
That long he was
he was an assistant U.S. attorney
Okay, that's right.
under the most effective U.S. attorney in the history of the Southern District.
History of the country.
Go ahead, eat on that, jerks.
Yeah, they can't.
Go ahead.
They can't take
tell
that
me,
away.
Tell me who prosecuted more important cases than I did as U.S. attorney. Tom Dewey did one mafia guy. I did the entire commission and 800 mafia people in Italy.
Yeah, that's right. And in Italy, unfortunately, there were 3 of you, and at least one of the other 2 were killed for it. Right?
2.
They both lost their lives.
Yeah, 2 judges.
2 judges, and they both were murdered, or they were both assassinated.
Yes.
That's right. So the mayor, along with 2 judges, you got to look this up, folks, took out the entire Italian mafia, and he did it right because Italy wanted to join the EU, and the EU is telling them, "You guys got to take care of this mafia problem."
Right.
So they brought you in to do it with 2 judges, and these guys in Sicily said, "You 3 are never welcome here. You come here, we're going to kill you for what you did." Those 2 judges, God bless them. Well, at least one of them had the backbone. He went back there, and they
both of them.
Well, I'll let you and they killed
Both of them did, and both of them at different times were assassinated.
Assassinate.
Because the Sicilian mafia doesn't have the same rules as the American mafia. It was never, they believed they control Sicily, so they could kill prosecutors, cops, public officials, politicians. In America, the theory was, if you do that, you're going to open up too much of an investigation on us.
Yeah. And
the original real founders of La Cosa Nostra, which really would be in the late 1920s and early 1930s, when they put together the commission, were all very much of the thinking that you should remain below the radar. You should pretend to have a legitimate business. You should conduct yourself like a gentleman. You shouldn't. You should never. If you got caught, take your medicine, shut up, and go to jail. We'll take care of family. We'll take care of you in jail. We'll just bribe the prison guards, and you can have a wonderful time in jail. Be away from the wife. We'll get you great food.
Yeah.
But the jail in Atlanta, the Atlanta Penitentiary, which had Vito Genovese, was reputed to have some of the best Italian cooking in all of the South.
Yeah.
Because they ship it in from Brooklyn.
Yeah. Spaghetti.
I mean, they were an unusual group of extraordinarily dangerous criminals. When in The Godfather, they say to the Godfather, now, the Godfather, they're saying, you're being, Godfather, you're being humble. I mean, you got all the judges and all the politicians in your pocket. It's not the sign of a friend that you don't share them. If you have all the water, you have to let your neighbors drink from the well. Well, that actually described the situation. The head of the Democratic Party in New York, Carmine DeSapio, was controlled by them.
By the mafia?
Mm-hmm. And one of the things that actually broke it open for the Kefauver Commission was they had him on tape talking to a judge, the state Supreme Court justice, like the ones who tried Trump. They had him on tape fixing a case with the judge.
Yeah.
Because he also was the county leader, the Democratic county leader in Manhattan.
Yeah.
And just like now, judges are not selected by the people, they're selected by the Democratic county leader. It's a fiction. It's a fiction that the election is a foregone conclusion because there's nobody else in Manhattan but Democrats.
Yeah.
I mean, either
people don't realize that.
Either there's nobody in Manhattan but Democrats, or they don't count any vote but a Democrat vote.
Yeah. Your vote doesn't get counted. It just
somehow or other,
Yeah.
you get a guy like Engel Moron, who's elected 3 times, and 3 times he was elected. They couldn't find anybody to run against him because he's so compelling. You've seen Engel Moron on the bench. You see what a genius he is.
Yeah,
Like,
right.
people going to vote for him?
I don't think so.
That was it. That was the same picture you just showed, right?
Yeah, they're not seeing it. I'm just showing Judge Engoron.
Oh, there he is. See, he'd make a hell of a politician, right?
This guy. Crazy person.
Would you leave your child alone with him? I would. Well, Trump, I can't, it's hard to believe. It can take a while to really absorb what that whole election, all that he went through. It'll be a hell of a book if somebody writes it.
Yeah.
There'd be probably a couple of volumes. My God, it was the most complex.
We covered it every day for the last 2.
Most vicious, most dishonest.
We're going back to 16. You're right. Going back to 15. We've got a decade now.
Based on the fear they were able to create of him, which is insane. They distorted our entire government. They took apart our government. They took apart our justice system. They took apart our free speech. I mean, here you have the government conspiring with the major sources of information to cut people off, to cut off free speech, to define through terms like hate speech or misinformation, to basically tell you what you could say and how you could say it. And you could only say it that way. And then it turns out that they're dead wrong and they don't apologize or learn from it. I mean, so there's a whole period of time when people were saying that the vaccine is not effective. Many of those people were fired. Many of those people were taken off television. I was. Many of those people were deprived of their livelihood. People who didn't want to take the vaccine because it never was tested, and it was never tested. That's what it means to get an exception. They got an exception, so you didn't have to do the usual tests for possible side effects of the vaccine. So inherently, you have to have a little humility in forcing people to take this thing, because you have no idea what it can do or not do. And then if you add to it that this was a very different kind of vaccine that we had never used before, basically the whole idea of a vaccine and to give you immunity was to give you the disease in a mild form, and then you develop an immunity to it. This was to reorganize your immune system through your nervous system. Whoa. To this day, they don't know what damage they did doing that. And they never tested it. And which is why Pfizer wanted their papers put away for 75 years. You think if those papers contained all sorts of great stuff, that we're going to put it away for 75 years?
Yeah.
A company like Pfizer? That should be released now. I mean, probably contains dynamite. And then when you look at it, you got to be an idiot to realize that they were using this misinformation thing in order to sell you government propaganda, government brainwashing. The minute someone said the vaccine doesn't work, they take them off television, they fire them. The minute you say you won't take it, they take your job away from you. And it turns out you're right. I mean, the only question that remains is not, did the vaccine work? It doesn't work. You don't get the disease 4 times after taking it if it works. A vaccine prevents you from getting the disease. So even if it's effective in some way, which was their second argument, it'll make it less, then it's a medicine. It's a treatment, not a vaccine. It's like the very thing they were depriving people of in America who had it available in other countries and didn't die in the same numbers, like hydroxychloroquine or ivermectin, the horse medicine. Yeah, well, penicillin is horse medicine too. And so is, many of the medicines we use on animals. That was all done as part of the propaganda. And as Kennedy's book makes clear, to make money. It wasn't being done to try to cure COVID or because this was the best possible thing. And how many doctors, really honest, decent doctors who wanted to give treatment, how many of them were canceled? And then the other half went along. So we got a lot to fix, right, Ted?
Oh, we're just getting started, Mayor.
And that's why you need somebody crazy like Kennedy. Yeah, I mean that.
They say he's crazy.
When I say crazy, I mean somebody who
willing to shake things up a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, we know what you mean.
They think I'm crazy. Anybody they think is crazy.
Effective. Doing something.
And
moving the ball
forward. And the more upset they get about a nomination.
Exactly.
The more correct Trump was.
Hang in there, Pete.
Yeah, hang in there, Pete.
Hang in there.
Gates, come on back.
Yeah, we want get in there. Well,
I think the one that really has him though, nervous. Pete, they're going after because they got a couple of things they can use that are very salacious. But I think the guy they're really worried about is Cash.
Yes.
I mean, in many ways, there's nobody more powerful than the director of the FBI.
Yeah.
And he doesn't look like he takes any crap.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We've spent some time with him and he just wants to do what's right and fix things over at the FBI. He's not, so I'm excited, Mayor. And I know you were very, very
no, I thought that
public supporter of Cash.
Oh, I thought
for the job. And
you know that. I think
he a good man, very impressive resume.
He doesn't have to be educated on what you could put the best person in there, and if they had to be educated on it, who knows if they wouldn't be misled? Because those bureaucracies are enormously effective at misleading you.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah.
So you
not out of the woods.
To come in there knowing it already.
Yep.
Before they can mislead you.
Yeah, he's got to find his people and people that know that
he's going in with maximum knowledge.
Yeah, that's right.
Well,
that's exciting. Well, we'll be back tomorrow.
We'll be back tomorrow. We'll see where everything stands tomorrow. We're gonna really urge that everybody stay behind Pete Hegseth. Don't let them buffalo us again, like they always do.
They always get us. We always.
Let's see if we can, for once, have a Republican Party that sticks together. Yeah. Huh? Let's give. If this president was elected by the people, Let's give him a chance to govern the way he wants to govern. And then if he's a failure, he's a failure. He won't be, but if he is, he is. Then it's his responsibility. If you don't give him the people that he wants, I don't know how you can hold him accountable.
That's right.
I mean, I could not have accomplished what I did in New York if I didn't have the people I wanted. And you don't do it by miracles. I mean, you may have great ideas, but somebody has to go out and execute them. And you got to have people that you can trust and who agree with you in order to do that. How are you going to reduce taxes if everybody disagrees with you? So let's see. I'm really just preaching to my Republican friends. Just for once, stick together. See if let's try something different. Why don't we all stick together? Maybe we'll get a different result than the unbelievable destruction we've done to this country, huh? So pray for the people of Israel and pray for the people of Ukraine who are now being needlessly sacrificed. This is now shooting and killing just for position, so I can have a little more territory here, a little more territory there for the negotiation that's inevitable. Maybe they just have a ceasefire. Just leave it the way it is. Wait until Trump comes in, and then just listen to him. And of course, pray for the people of the United States. They showed great wisdom. Keep blessing us. Keep taking care of us. We need you right now because there's a lot to be done. God bless America. See you tomorrow night.
It's our purpose to bring to bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. There was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason, we're able to talk, we're able to analyze,